Hey guys, what's going on? Excoundrel here. I have shaved and look like a baby. I'm going to take my headphones off because my hair always looks terrible with headphones on, and I didn't grow it out for nothing. Hey, how are you doing? Well, thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel, by the way. Reference link in the description below. You've got a couple days left to enter into my giveaway for June. Just make sure you drop a comment on each of the videos and make sure you take a look. But yes, overall, we are... yeah, we're looking at a new patch. We've got patch 2.3b, I think, coming out, and it is probably going to be going live, I guess, today when this video comes out. I guess it will be live today. We won't have Lucian and Senna until next week. So Lucian and Senna are coming next week, so I'll obviously do videos on those. I'm super excited about Senna. She's one of my favorite champions in the game, especially as a support player. She fulfills a really good fantasy in support players where you actually feel like you can be aggressive, you can actually basic attack people properly. Like she has a really good niche where I think a lot of support players really like to play her. So I think yeah, I think she's going to be a really good addition. Got some skins: True Damage Senna, Hired Gun Lucian. It's like the Hired Gun Lucian skin sucks, but it's just one of the basic Lucian skins. We've got Fighting for the Good Fight or for the Fetter or Worse. So I guess you're lining up with either the Black Mist or you're lining up with the Sentinels. There's like a whole thing going on with that. I'm sure you guys will hear about it soon. I'm not allowed to say much about it. There's obviously going to be the Sentinels of Light event, which is where Sentinels are fighting back against the Black Mist. They have done this 4G dual Wi-Fi connection. This is apparently going to help fix the 999 ping issues. I think it uses about 3 megabit of data per game if you have it turned on. I'm not entirely sure how it will function. Feel free to give it a shot. I can't even get 4G data in my house here. I live in the middle of bloody nowhere, so I've got absolutely no data. Can't even test it. But I've heard, according to the Riot guys who've been testing it, that it is a good way of trying to make your ping slightly better if you're having those random lag spike issues, either on 4G or on Wi-Fi. Right, here is the juice. I don't know which one's my radio voice. I think that all of my voice settings are completely messed up. Let's just... Is this my radio voice? Is this my radio voice? Is this my radio... This is my radio voice, but I didn't have the FX turned on. Right, we're going to get into the champion changes. I'm going to turn this off now because I don't have my headphones on, so I have no idea what I sound like. Why are they buffing Draven? Like, here we go. Yeah, why are they buffing Draven? He's a hard champion to play. I think he was probably underperforming. I think also people know how to play around Draven. You basically just don't die to him, but he already was a very strong lane bully. They're taking 3 seconds of his knockaway, his third ability, in the early game, scales up to the normal cooldown in the late game. And they are increasing the movement speed on Blood Rush by 10% all ranks. That's really insane for trading in the laning phase early on. And honestly, I'm not sure Draven needed the buff. I think Draven is obnoxious to play against. You can't actually beat him very easily in lane. He's already one of the most dominant lane AD carries. The reason he falls off is that he just, if you don't die to him, which is the whole point of Draven, just don't die to him, he's supposed to lose. You know, Draven's supposed to be a champion that picks up early kills and snowballs. He's not really supposed to be a champion that can compete with the likes of, you know, Kai'Sa, etc. He's already dominant enough against those AD carries in the laning phase. So if you just play safe and don't die, like you play around Draven, I feel like giving him this extra 10% movement speed is going to really make him more obnoxious in the laning phase, where he already is the most obnoxious AD carry in the game. Like, you just can't trade versus his empowered basic attacks. It is impossible. He hits harder than any other AD carry in the game, just blow for blow on basic attacks. Very difficult to deal with. Again, though, you know, it just means you're going to have to play a bit safer. You're going to have to respect the distance a little bit more versus Draven. He still won't be good if you manage to not die to him, but this just gives him better opportunities to seek kills. Probably not a good change overall. I don't really want to be playing against Dravens every game. And I also don't really like playing with Dravens, because if we don't get the kill, you've just got a useless AD carry. And if you give a kill over to them, then they just win. Yeah, there we go. I just don't like Draven. I hate Draven's passive. I think it's stupid. I think Draven's passive is one of the worst designed passives in League of Legends. You should not be giving free gold to someone when they get a kill. Getting a kill already gives you gold. You don't need to give them more gold. Even though it fits the thematic of Draven, it's an obnoxious passive. It's not just Wild Rift. I've had this problem in PC League as well. I just hate the passive, but there you go. What can you do? FIZZ. Tidal Trickster is causing too much mayhem from the jungle, so we're tuning down his damage to monsters. Wrong. Wrong. It's not really his clear speed. He already goes low in the jungle. Now he's going to be taken down to like ridiculous low level HP where he'll just be one shot by Lee Sins that walk into the jungle. It's not his clear speed. It's just the damage and the cooldown on his ult. His ult cooldown is way too low. He has it up too often, even in the early game. Give him the Evelyn treatment. Like, make his cooldown longer on his ultimate. By reducing his damage to monsters with Seastone Trident, you're just making his jungle worse and harder to play. So this is going to massively impact his jungle because his clear speed's going to be, what, 25% slower now? Whatever it's going to be. It's going to be much slower. And he's going to go much lower in the jungle, and he's going to be easier to kill in that jungle phase. You probably have to start blue buff on Fizz. You can't go red to blue because you'll probably take too much damage. The regeneration from blue buff will be too important to Fizz in the jungle. And that makes him too predictable. I just think this is the wrong thing to nerf. I think his damage and his scaling with Lichbane, those are the things you should be looking at. Like he was just one-shotting people, and his ultimate cooldown was too low. He would just be able to use it over and over and over again. That's my problem with Fizz. Not his damage to monsters. He had a respectable clear speed, not a ridiculous clear speed. Now you're going to have to force him to start blue. He's going to take too much damage if he doesn't, and he's going to be too easy to invade for good players. Yeah, that's that. There we go. TED talk over. TED talk over. Oh my baby, what have they done to you? Okay, I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I was so committed to figuring out this Garen change. I'm going to see if I can show you. I was so committed to figuring out this Garen change that I did. You can't see it. Well, okay, right. Bollocks. It's because I've cropped it. There we go. Here we go. I was so committed to figuring out this Garen change that I went around and did a load of little mini calculations on his damage on his ultimate at various stages of the game. Okay? Right? This damage here is the old damage at level 1. This damage here is the new damage at level 1 with no items. It scales off his base AD. It doesn't scale off bonus AD. Okay? So he does 1 less damage in the early game. And I thought, okay, fair enough. They're changing the scaling. They're reducing 10 damage in the late game. So it's 4 damage nerf in the early game, but when it gets to level 5, it's 10 damage nerf. And this is the damage difference with no items. I know you won't have no items at level when you've got level 4 ultimate, but this is the damage difference at no items between the two. He scales better, but you've got to make up that 10 damage differential that you have as base. So he's actually losing 5 damage per tick, and it ticks 8 times. So he's losing 40 damage overall on this ultimate over the course of the spin. Then I was like, okay, well, they're trying to make AD Garen better, right? They're trying to make AD Garen a thing. So let's go and look at AD Garen, right? These are the AD values that I was putting in for random calculations that you can see here, right? 173 AD is Garen that's at like level 7 or 6, where you've got you'll never have these items, but I was just trying to work it out. Looking at Garen at level 6 or 7 or something like that, and he had Starax Gauge and Black Cleaver, which you're not going to build full AD Garen, so Black Cleaver and Starax Gauge are the two probably the most likely AD items you get. That's 173 AD, by the way. You're still down on damage. To bridge this 10 gap, because they've only changed the scaling by 0.5%, to bridge this 10 damage gap, you need 200 AD. Now, Garen will get 200 AD roughly around the level 11 mark with these 2 items. If you've only got 1 item, let's say that you only go Black Cleaver, right? You only go Black Cleaver. If you want 200 AD and you want to bridge this gap, it's impossible. You get 176 as your max if you just go Black Cleaver into full tank. So you need to go Black Cleaver Sterax and be level 11 to bridge the gap and actually deal more damage. But that gets you to 206. And if you look at the damage, you're dealing 0.3 damage more than your old ultimate. Look, and don't get me wrong, guys. Don't get me wrong. Tank Garen was very strong, but you haven't really made it easy for Garen to scale with AD, because there aren't many good AD items for Garen unless you want to die in 2 seconds. So you haven't really made it easy for Garen to scale with AD. In fact, it's actually going to be much harder to deal damage with Garen. But don't get me wrong, probably a good thing overall. But the issue with Garen is he can't proc Conqueror stacks with his Judgment, as far as I'm aware. So, like, maybe if they made Judgment stacks proc with his spin, then it would have been slightly better. But nonetheless, you unless you're like going down a very heavy AD route and you're building items that maybe are not that optimal on Garen, you're going to be doing less damage with your spin pretty much every stage of the game, unless you decide to go Black Cleaver Sterex, but obviously you are investing a lot into damage items and you become seriously less tanky, but that should be the trade-off, right? But I'm just illustrating how hard it is to actually match the damage from previous Garen, even when you're going full AD items, just based on these changes alone. So that's how much I love Garen. I decided to go the extra mile and actually do some calculations. Let's go back to the let's go back to this and bring it back in. Right, I can get rid of that. Okay, Ult Demacian Justice, they're nerfing the base damage in the late game by 50, which is, I think, also warranted, and they are also, again, making it scale per bonus AD. And now this is the kicker. You get 35 AD from Black Cleaver. What I want to know is that Sterex Gauge technically gives you 50% base AD. I'm wondering if Sterex Gauge counts as if it counts as bonus AD, if the Sterex Gauge damage counts as bonus AD, because I'm not entirely sure if it does, because it's technically listed as just increasing your base AD, but if it gives you bonus AD, then you might be able to get towards 100 again at that level 11 mark if you go Black Cleaver Sterex. So to match your old damage on Garen, you need to be about level 10 or 11, and you need to have Black Cleaver and Sterex, so you can't go the tanky items. If you go the tanky items, you will be dealing significantly less damage, and I really mean it, significantly less damage with Garen. However, if you do manage to hit 100 bonus AD, you are going to be dealing more missing health damage with your ultimate, but you're still going to be struggling to match the same damage on your spin. So they actually listed this as an adjustment, but really it's a nerf. It's not really an adjustment. It's actually very hard, feasibly, to get Garen to the same spot that he was. When you list an adjustment, there's always like a, oh, he's better if you do it this way. No one's playing full AD Garen. It's useless. Garen has to be played a tank, realistically, and Black Cleaver is the best item for Garen if you want to go down an AD build path. Other than that, because you're spending most of your time like spinning and not basic attacking people, any of the basic attack items are pretty useless. Now, look, there is a bit of a meme build because Garen's third ability critically strikes on the edges, so you could build Infinity Edge, but really, no one's going to do that. So realistically, this is just a nerf for Garen. As you can see, I'm really upset. But he was a bit of a, am I allowed to say this word? Like brain dead champion? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word. He was a bit of a brain dead champion, and I could play him, so that must mean he's really easy to play. But yes, Garen is kind of donezo, I would say. He's probably still playable, but you have to go down a non-tanky build path, and now he's going to be much easier to kill. So if you're building him the same way that you did previously, you are just now a full-on tank, and honestly, Gragas is a better choice. Gragas is just a strictly better choice, I think, than Garen at this point if you're trying to play a full tank build path, because Garen has a really nice blend between actually dealing damage and also having a lot of CC and utility in his kit. So if you're looking to play a tank in the top lane, it's probably going to be Gragas now. Garen almost certainly not going to be S+, and plus he's now going to lose even harder to Fiora, who they haven't nerfed, and he's going to lose even harder to Camille, which is already a bad matchup to him. Why have they not nerfed Fiora? Jesus Christ. They've also capped out his max damage towards epic monsters, which I'm actually quite happy about, because the other day I lost an absolutely one game because the Garen stole Elder Dragon with his ultimate, which is just stupid. Cool. As you can see, I'm not salty. Irelia has been struggling to perform, especially in the highest level of skill, blah, 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 blah. Irelia are basically hard to play, so they're making hard to play champion buff. They're buffing a hard to play champion, making her easy to play, which is going to be wreaking havoc on high elo, I think. Her base damage on Blade Surge is going up by 5 in the early game. That is pretty significant. The healing attack damage ratio is going up by 0.05, similar to Garen. But healing, any healing that you get bonus attack damage ratios on is quite nice. And so this is a nice little change to the Blade Surge. Flawless Duet is getting a 30 damage increase if you hit it, which is actually a lot of base damage to throw onto an ability which is on a relatively short cooldown in the late game. And then Ult Vanguard's Edge is going up in the late game by 50, 25 at level 2. And your Blade Wall damage, which is the damage that you get through walking through it, is going to go up a little bit as well throughout the game, 25 at every rank. So I think Irelia is probably going to really shine in mid lane. And she's also going to be doubly good in mid lane for some of the changes that you're going to see later on. They're nerfing Jinx's damage to epic monsters with Super Mega Death Rocket. I like it. It's a good change. It is really annoying to lose an objective to a Jinx rocket. It's not very, apart from like randomly timing it, it's not that skilled to use the Jinx rocket on the objective and steal it. So I think this is a good change. Kha'Zix is having his base damage on his first ability nerfed by 5. 5, by the way, like 5 damage. Really? No, the Kha'Zix is still going to be good. Rammus is tuning down the attack speed he gains from talking a target. So he's basically going to have a 15% attack speed nerf across the board. Rammus was never good at high elo, but I think he was kind of giga stomping low elo because he's quite easy to play and quite obnoxious to play against, especially if you don't ward properly. So I don't think it's going to really affect his placement in tier lists, but it will just mean he's a little less weak. Riven is getting a buff. They are buffing the Valor shield by 10, so she's just getting a base 10 damage shield strength, which honestly isn't a huge buff. I think this is a very tentative buff for Riven. They kind of went. They said okay. They basically went. They literally went. We've got 2 really high skilled releases with Irelia and Riven. We're gonna slap Irelia with shit tons of buffs. And then I've just sworn anyway, who cares? And we're going to give Riven like this little tiddly buff. I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. Vayne's getting another buff. She was already kind of on the edge of being good again. Silverbolt's base damage is going up by 20. So I think this is the damage that you get when you manage to chain 3 again. You get the base damage plus the maximum health damage. So it's going up by 20 in the early game, which is actually going to... I think that's a genuinely nice change. Like, that's going to really buff her early game and make her less useless. In the late game, it's only going up by 5, though, because her late game doesn't really need any extra help. And they're giving her a 5-second cooldown buff on her ultimate, which is whatever, really. That 20 damage, don't overlook it. It might actually be relatively impactful in the early game. Katarina, Twisted Fate, and Ziggs are all getting 5 armor nerfs, okay? Because AP mid laners are completely dominant right now. These are the 3 probably best performing mid laners in the meta from what I've seen from playing. And this is going to make Irelia better. It's going to make Zed better. It's going to make Yasuo better. So this is just allowing AD mids a little bit further back into the meta. I do expect to start seeing some more Zed because you'll be able to punish their early games a lot easier. You'll deal like 5 armor. At this level of armor is actually a pretty significant damage shift. That's about... I think it's like 3% extra damage that you're going to be dealing to them. So all of these champions will take 3% extra AD damage. For Katarina especially, because most basic attacks are AD, this will hurt her a decent amount. Who cares about ARAM changes? Gameplay changes. Second Wind. It's a bit strong. So they're nerfing it to 5 HP every 5 seconds. So they're giving you 1 less HP every 5 seconds. And after taking damage, regenerate 3 plus 1.5%. Missing health doubled for melee champions. Yeah, they're not changing that. So you're getting 1 less HP every 5 seconds. You're getting what, like, can I do maths right now? 12 HP less a minute. Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. I mean, 12 HP. Smite's tooltips now reflects its mana regen. Evelyn's ult tooltip should now reflect that it only deals bonus damage to champions. Cool, some tooltip changes. There you go. All right. My read on this is the AD mids will be back in meta. Kha'Zix is not changing. Irelia will probably be S+ tier / S tier in mid lane. She's already pretty good. FIZZ jungle might be dead. Draven's probably going to be obnoxious. And Garen tank is pretty donezo. Probably still playable, don't get me wrong. But he's not going to be as good as he was, that's for certain. I think top lane will very much feel like a Renekton, Gragas, that kind of thing. Fiora, Camille, those kind of things that are already pretty good. They'll probably remain good, and Garen's just going to slip down a little bit. Because these are, especially the ult damage changes, but also the fact that, you know, the judgment changes will actually affect him if you don't build any AD at all, like pretty significantly. Yeah, these are going to hurt a decent amount. But yeah, that's my read on the meta. I hope you guys enjoy the patch, and I'll let you know how it feels once we get to the tier list. I'll see you soon.